It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So you might remember on Friday, we were talking about AB 316, a bill, a bipartisan bill in California, overwhelming support by both parties to ensure that there is a qualified safety person behind the wheel of every autonomous truck in California. Thought it was going to sail through the governor's office, pretty easily because it sailed through the legislature pretty easy. Wildly popular with the public, and yet Governor Gavin Newsom evidently decided, nope. His statement, curious, he said Assembly Bill 316 is unnecessary for the regulation and oversight of heavy-duty autonomous vehicle technology in California, as existing law provides sufficient authority to create the appropriate regulatory framework. Now, people that I've talked to, they're saying bunk. And what I'm telling you is what I said on Friday. The first person who gets killed because of one of these autonomous trucks goes off the virtual rails, it's on this guy. And here to share some thoughts on why. In fact, he probably vetoed this as my next guest and I were talking about how important this is. That's why I've asked Jason Rabinowitz to come talk with us. He's the president of Teamsters Joint Council 7. TeamstersJC7.org is the website. Jason, thanks for taking time for us.
Oh, thank you, Rick. Glad to be with you.
So am I getting this right? Right about the time that you and I were talking, the governor decides, no, we don't need this. We got it covered.
Yeah, well, late on a Friday night, after refusing to meet with the Teamsters General President, Sean O'Brien, refusing to talk to workers about this issue, he cowardly vetoed this bill, which is, as you mentioned, overwhelmingly supported by the public, overwhelmingly supported bipartisan by the legislature. And it's a great disappointment that someone that was supposed to be a friend of working people, that said he was going to be on our side, when his job was on the line, he was getting recalled. He came to the Teamsters, he came to the labor movement and said, hey, back me up, save my job, I'll be there with you. And we did save his job. Now our jobs are on the line and he's not there with us. And he chose the greedy tech companies and robots and profits over safety and working people, jobs, our communities. And it's really unfortunate. But, this is just the beginning of this fight, Rick. This is the fight for labor of the next decade or more, to protect our jobs and our safety from robots, from AI, trying to take all our jobs. And our fight continues. This is far from the end. In fact, it's just the beginning. We'll continue to fight as Teamsters with the rest of the labor movement, with the rest of our communities, to protect our jobs and safety from these robot trucks and all the AI that they're trying to bring in to take our jobs just so they can boost their profits.
Now, I got to tell you, when I first saw the veto happened, my mind went to hope. I'm going, he's a Democrat. He wants to be president. Clearly someday he wants to be president. He's certainly not going to choose the wrong side for no reason. So my first thought was, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he sides with me in that this doesn't go far enough. It's too much of a compromise. No, we need stronger protections instead of this being a person sitting watching the computer. Maybe he thinks that the computer should be helping the worker, and I would be on board with that. But his statement, curious to me, because he says that California law, as it exists, provides sufficient authority to create the appropriate regulatory framework. Do you see that? Do you buy that? Is that possible?
Well, working people don't buy that. Nobody buys that. He wants to put this monumental issue in the hands of the Department of Motor Vehicles and let them decide. And, a decision of this magnitude needs to be made by our elected leaders, by the legislature, by the governor, and not punted to a regulatory bureaucratic agency. And we've been in front of the DMV on this very issue because they moved to issue regulations that would authorize robot trucks out on the freeways. And that's what started this whole thing. And we went out there, we had drivers, Teamster drivers, and our members testify in front of the DMV, and they were totally dismissive of drivers, of workers. All they wanted to listen to was these tech companies who were lying and talking about how safe this technology is when we all know that it's not safe, it's not ready. And so it's clear that the DMV is not taking workers seriously, is not taking unions, our safety, our community seriously. They're too cozy with the tech companies, and this decision should never be in the hands of DMV. So when he says that that the DMV is the right place for this decision to take place, he's dead wrong. And we reject that entirely.
Over the weekend, my son and I, we were traveling through Ohio and Michigan to visit UAW picket lines, and we happened to catch a Guardians baseball game. And as we're sitting in the heart of downtown Cleveland, in the stadium with 15, 16,000 people, my cell phone got nothing. I could Google nothing. I could search nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Couldn't text. Couldn't do anything because too many people on the system. We've bogged down the system. So immediately as I'm sitting there, I'm going, now imagine rush hour traffic coming in to downtown Cleveland, into New York City, into Washington, D.C., into Los Angeles. Imagine all of those trucks on this virtual rail, this 5G that we're not sure works yet. I'm sorry, it may be safe for one truck with 50 people watching it, but I'm sorry, 1 million trucks on the road with nobody watching, I got real problems with this.
Oh, well, yeah, and we saw what happened in San Francisco. There's about 1,000 of these robot taxis on the road. There was a concert there. A bunch of people came in the city, jammed up the cell phone network. Next thing you know, all these cars are stalling out all over the city because the cell phone network went down. And Cruise and Waymo say, oh, well, it's not our fault. It's the cell phone network. Well, no. What if you said rush hour traffic? What if there's a disaster, an earthquake, a fire, and the network goes down? Right at the moment, we need our streets clear for the ambulances and the fire trucks, and all these robot trucks, robot cars stall out because their signal goes down. What if the signal goes down when the truck's going 50, 60, 70 miles an hour down the freeway next to some family in their minivan next to our kids? The technology is not ready. And these tech companies don't care about that. They just care about our profits. So that's why we need our elected leaders, like our governor, to care about us. But in this moment where everything's on the line, he turned his back on us. And, we're going to remember that. And if he wants to run for president or dog catch or anything in between, we're going to remember this moment when our jobs and our safety were on the line, and he chose the greedy tech companies and the robots over us.
So where do you go? Where do you go from here, Jason? Because obviously he vetoed this, and I'm with you, kind of like a thief in the night. I don't know why you do this, on a late night Friday, but this is what the governor chose. Because I think that's more of a slap in the face than vetoing it, to be honest. Because it's like, well, they won't notice. They're off for the weekend. This will blow over by Monday. I stewed about it all weekend, and I wasn't even on the campaign with you guys. So where do you go from here with this?
Well, he can try to hide out on a Friday night, but workers are going to remember. And this fight has just begun. The vast majority of the public supports our bill, supports this idea. The vast majority of the legislature, Democrats and Republicans, support it. So we're going to continue to fight on the legislative front, and we're going to fight on every front to make sure that we continue to protect our jobs and our safety from these robot trucks. His veto message was so disingenuous, Rick. It said, this is inflexible approach, and this stops innovation. This doesn't stop innovation in the least. It doesn't stop them from running a single autonomous truck on the road. All it says is that if they want to run these robot trucks, they have to put a human operator in there to ensure safety. And their hypocrisy is totally exposed by the fact that they oppose this, because if they really thought it was just about safety, like they claim, these greedy tech companies would be very happy to say, okay, we'll put a human operator in there to ensure safety. That's a belt and suspenders, right? They claim their trucks are so safe, but if there's a problem, there's a human safety operator. No, the truth is that they're trying to eliminate jobs, human driving jobs, because they want to save money and boost their profits. And they're willing to put driverless robot trucks 80,000 pounds on the freeway before the technology is ready, endangering all of our lives just to save a buck.
Yeah. No, I mean, in the example you gave, the example of the taxis is a perfect example. If the taxis can't work, if you can't make little things work, why are you going to the biggest things on the road?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense other than because you want to rush it out before it's ready in order to eliminate jobs and boost your profits.
No.
And that's where the unions come in, and that's where our elected leaders should come in. And I'm glad that our legislature stood up and did the right thing. And I'm embarrassed and disappointed by our governor, who was supposed to be our friend, who cowardly took the side of the greedy tech companies instead of working people in safety. And we're going to remember that when it comes time for him to run for anything else. We know where he stands.
Let me ask you this. Your general president, Sean O'Brien, tweeted out today that the bill has 95% bipartisan support in the legislature, 75% public support. And yes, Newsom killed it. For those of us who don't know California politics as maybe as well as we should, or the mechanisms of how they work, I think every state has a way to overturn a veto. With 95% bipartisan support, is that a possibility that the legislature can overturn this and say we're going to put it into law? How does it work in California?
Well, no question. In California, the legislature can override with 2/3 vote of both houses. We got well more than that when we passed the bill to begin with. So we're looking at all our options, Rick, and we're looking at the best way to bring this thing back. I can say that we have the right to reintroduce it. We have the right to look at an override, but the people want this. The legislature wants this. We're not going to let one man who's too close to the greedy tech companies to stop us from protecting our jobs and our safety. So we're looking at our options, and we're going to be moving forward. But this is just the beginning.
Yeah, I visit California. I want you to have it because I don't want to be driving through there. And I also know that California is a driver for policy across the rest of the country. So if you guys can't seem to get this done, I don't think Mississippi or Florida or any other places that I've been are going to consider that either.
Well, this is why California is so important, because we do think that it sets the tone for policy elsewhere. But, this is a bipartisan issue. This is not a Republican or Democratic issue. There's plenty, we had a Republican co-sponsor. Almost all the Republican legislators voted for this thing. And we've seen in lots of deep red states where the people and the legislators are standing right in the same with the same idea that we are, that we need to stand up to these greedy tech companies. We need to stop these robot trucks from coming in. I think it's going to happen all around the country where people are going to stand up to this.
See, to me, this isn't a bipartisan issue. This is a nonpartisan issue. This should not be at all partisan because, look, I don't care who vetoed it or who approved it. That truck comes careening down the road and runs off the virtual rails and kills somebody I know. I don't care if they wore a red hat or a blue hat. I just know that this should not have been allowed to happen. Before I let you go, I got to get your thoughts on the news today that there's a tentative agreement in the Writers Guild strike. That I guess they've pulled down the pickets for now, pending ratification. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, labor is resurgent all over the place, where workers are fed up with corporate greed, and you've got these very powerful and rich entertainment companies that it's just like with the robot trucks. They want robots to write the screenplays, and they want robots to act in the movies. They want to take people's labor writing the scripts and pay them peanuts. And the workers stood up and courageously took the strike, and they held on, and they ended up getting a tentative agreement that's recommended. We're very proud that the Teamsters Union and especially our Hollywood Local 399 under leadership of Lindsay Doherty, who's an international vice president, stood up for the writers and for the actors and made it clear, if you got a picket line on one of these productions, our Teamster trucks are not going through there. We're standing in solidarity. And we're proud that the Teamsters Union has helped in our way to contribute to this win. And, workers are going to keep standing up, whether it's UAW, SAG-AFTRA, My local 2010 is potentially going to be on strike against California State University, together with all the other unions there very shortly. Workers are fed up, sick and tired of the rich getting richer and enriching themselves like these CEOs with their huge profits and their huge executive compensation, and expecting workers to accept peanuts for the work that we do that makes them rich. And so I'm very proud of the writers for their fight, and they've set a great example for the rest of labor.
Yeah, I mean, this, I had framed the writers' strike and the Screen Actors Guild as the front line of the class war, the war on technology. I mean, we're getting beat up by robots and AI and all this. This is the beginning of that tech fight, and I'm anxious to find out what came out of this, and the good things that they got out of this. But here's the thing, because clearly our politicians aren't going to help us. It's something that we got to do for ourselves.
And workers are doing it. Workers are standing up everywhere from in every industry. And it's a great moment to be part of the labor movement, because we're fighting and we're winning like we haven't in a long time. So we just have to keep up the battle.
There you go.
And we've got these greedy tech companies. They've got a lot of innovations, Rick, a lot of good new technology, but there's nothing innovative about union busting. There's nothing innovative about underpaying workers and trying to take away their jobs and take away their livelihood. And so we're going to fight that tooth and nail. We welcome innovation, but we will stand up to union busting and exploitation at every turn. And I'm proud that the Teamsters Union is part of this fight.
Amen. Jason, I appreciate you taking time for us. Come back and talk to us again soon, especially as the strike that you've got coming up comes online. I'd love to hear more from you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rick. Anytime.
Our good friend Jason Rabinowitz, he is the president of Teamsters Joint Council 7, teamstersjc7.org, the website if you want to keep up with the work that they do. Going to take a quick break. Back with your thoughts. Stick around. Listen to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And after years of politicians talking about it, they finally passed a big new infrastructure package to rebuild roads and bridges, fix drinking water systems, and make the energy grid more secure. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice as Americans.
Wow, I just got a text from a relative who lives back where I went to high school. Wow. Evidently, the high school football, the coach of the high school that I graduated from and played football for years at, evidently the coach has resigned after his term was, evidently he used a Nazi slur. He used the word Nazi repeatedly as a term to call out plays during a game in Beechwood. Evidently, the student body in Beechwood is 90% Jewish. I wonder if that had something to do with the audible and the play call. I just kind of spitball. It's scary. I mean, the area I grew up in, which was again solidly a working class, unionized, upper middle class ish, hardworking area. a lot of blue collar workers, having gone the Trump way, and this is a sign of, and again, what I said from the beginning was, where I grew up, those folks believed all those jobs that they lost because of bad policy, Trump was going to bring back. They truly believed that. They internalized it. Look, Cleveland, where I grew up, was a very segregated area. So racism and misogyny were in my youth were the norm. All of the things that they're accused of, but it wasn't that moved these people. It was the economy. It was the jobs, and it's the undercurrent of what's going on now as well. Because the economy is on paper doing pretty well, but read a newspaper, read our news accounts, things not good. The messaging that the corporatists and the right wing have put out is everything's horrible and it's all Joe Biden's fault. And yet the economy that he inherited from Trump was terrible. Massive unemployment. And yet, Biden has done, in my view, a lot of the right things to move us in the right direction. And it's hard to not remember the chaos of the Trump years. So a little chaos today. Evidently, Marjorie Trainwreck Green took Donald Trump gun shopping. Chaos rules the day. Now remember, this is how Trump ran government. Everything was chaotic. I guess he walked out of a gun store with a gun he can't have, the same way he tried to walk out of the White House with thousands of documents that he can't have. This level of entitlement, and we'll call it Glockgate. Evidently, there was a Glock that had a picture or an image of him on the handle, and he's taking a picture with it, all smiles, and he said, he was going to buy one. And, he said, I got to have one of those. I want to have one. I want to buy one. And the initial reporting is that he bought it, which then sent all the people scratching their heads because someone under federal indictment, 91 felony charges, can't buy a gun. So in public, in front of us, with his future VP, because I'm thinking, he's trying some of them out, he openly commits a federal offense. Now, immediately all my left friends are going, we should lock him up for this. I'm going, no, I don't think he bought it. And then the news report comes out saying, no, he didn't buy one. And then they tapped it back because they realized, you know what? That's a federal offense. Now, I, from the beginning, said there's no way he bought it. There's just no way he bought it. And I had a friend go, well, why wouldn't he buy it? Because did he think that he was breaking the law? No, he doesn't care about the law. He could care less. He could shoot. Remember, I can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose a vote. He doesn't buy anything. He's used to stiffing people. He's used to getting stuff on the arm. Walk into a restaurant, hey, I'm Donald Trump, on the arm. He fancies himself a mob guy. He would never reach into his pocket and spend $900 on something he doesn't need or want or just pay. So, this is the weird thing. Now, again, that flaunting of the law, pretty powerful on that side. And this is why the gun fetishists love him so much. And that flaunting of the law part, this was all performative, is what it was. This is, get me a little media attention, endure me to my gun fetish friends. Now, if a gun was transferred to him, whether he did buy it and they zeroed it out for, no, we'll just let you purchase it, or we'll just give it to you. That's still a crime, as I understand. And that's the thing that gets me. If he did walk out of there with a gun, it's not him who should be in trouble. It's the gun owner. It's the gun shop owner who should be the one. And are you telling me that the guy who was owning the gun shop, clearly a supporter of Trump, didn't know he was under indictment for 91 felonies? And again, was that not the performative part to go, hey, look at me. I'm a good Trump gun nut. Come do business in my gun nut store. I think I'm right on this. The point of the whole thing, the whole point of the whole display was to own the libs. We got them all worked up, didn't we? And we got lots of attention. And made the base all tingly in the panties. And whenever there's a gun and a broken law, you know there's an NRA guy just warm and fuzzy down there. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break, right back.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. And the Teamsters pushed a law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind. The union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.